Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 3 and episode number 362 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryo Media Network. Yeah. Something weird going on with me. There we go. And today, recording day is. Did I say that already? Wednesday?
I don't know.
I'm sure. I'm sorry. I got distracted for a second. Today, recording day is Wednesday, April 17th, post-budget day, 2024. And it's a nice day here at the Beaver Lodge. Not quite sure whether or not we're going to get cloud or sun, but it looks like there's a battle going on. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Today, we are going to be talking budget, so we hope that you are excited for this. A big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. But before we do anything else, let's ask Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health doing today, sir?
Good morning, Mr. Beaver. Mental health-wise, well, I think I'm doing pretty good, honestly. I'm a little groggy because I didn't sleep well last night. Allergy season, pollen is just off the charts right now in this city, like extremely high. So it's, you take the medication, you do your best you can to get on through. But physically not feeling great. Emotionally, I'm feeling really good. Having a 80-pound love hound that I have to walk every morning at 6 a.m., I think really does, help. Because you have to get up. You have to get out. You have another being relying upon you. I wanted to say human, but she's not human. But I have a sentient being relying upon me to take her out. Take her for a walk. So usually every morning from 6 to 6:30, I take her out and around. Some days I've woken up at 5 and been wide awake. My alarm goes off at 5, but I'm usually not awake until 6 because I'm just not a morning person. But if I wake up at 5 and I'm wide awake, I'll take her out at 5 for like an hour, then come back in and get ready to do the show. So yeah, I'd say I'm doing pretty good mental health wise, honestly.
Good, nice good. I'm glad to hear that. From my end, I am doing really well. I had a bit of a weird day yesterday. Actually, it was most part often frustrating. Just things didn't seem to go well. But on the upside, because I know you're all waiting for the Eager Beaver Lodge curling report. My men's team won last night. We were playing really well the first half. We were actually up by 6, and then we did everything we could to try to give the game away, but we didn't. So we advanced to the semi.
Good.
Yeah, I guess so. We had a weird ice actually. Apparently, the night before somebody had fallen.
Oh,
and like this, and they were actually on the ice for about half an hour before they actually got him up. So there was a dip in it. So they tried to fix it, but it wasn't completely fixed. So we call that dished. The ice is dished. So if you're curling from the sides, you had like wild curl would come in. And then if you were going down the middle, it would go straight and like this. And I kept up. it took me, my skip figured it out really quickly, but it took me a little while to figure it out. So anytime he was giving me like a takeout, like anywhere somewhere in the middle, it would like my rocks would just like flash right by them and go like, why the hell are they not curling? There's like 5 feet of curl in this, but not there.
That'll explain it.
So, but we won. So, for the first time in my, I do not know what's going on, but I've been playing curling for 20 years, and for the first time in my life, I am in not one, but 2 club semifinals.
Oh, wow.
A division in doubles and B division men.
So you're
14.
getting better as you get older, getting better with age?
I guess so. I'm like a fine wine. Anyway, yeah, but hey, I'm having a banner year. I've never, ever, ever remotely had anywhere. I've won 1 Bonspiel in 20 years.
You're
then in
fine
high
wine.
school-
I'm old cheese.
Yep. And in high school, medals like for the city, but also B division, right? But that's it. That's it. 20-year career. I've got 7 trophies, maybe.
Wow.
So, and only 1 A division trophy. So, yeah, I'm not equipped to handle the success. Actually, I don't know what to do with it, but I'm happy. However,
It's usually
my
the
curling
situation, though. You know that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Most of us are not equipped to handle success.
Yep.
We every single human being on Earth learns how to fail at a very young age.
Mhm.
First couple of steps, fall flat in your face. There's your first failure. You've learned from that. Learning how to be successful is a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah, it's really weird, and especially at sports, because sometimes you're in the exact same situation you've always been, but just because it counts more, all of a sudden your whole body starts like shaking, and I was like, "What the hell?"
You know where I learned that? You know where I learned that lesson from, of all people in this world? Harvey Korman.
Oh, okay.
Well, it was right around the time that Kurt Cobain left us, that they were asking, they were just asking people about it. And Harvey Korman, of all people, who said he liked Nirvana, he liked their music. I was like, really? He said, when I first got famous, he says, because I had, failed and failed and failed and failed. And then Carol Burnett show hit. And all of a sudden I was this overnight sensation after, I don't know, 10 or 12 years or whatever it was. He says, I was equipped to handle failure. I was not equipped to handle success.
Mhm.
He says, I was a raging alcoholic. I was a terrible human being because I didn't know how to deal with it. He says, so what has happened to Kurt Cobain is sad and tragic, and we're going to see it again and again and again until we can set up a system that will help support people for their success, which sounds like a strange thing to say.
Mhm.
It sounds like we're going to coddle a millionaire. No, we're going to coddle a human being who needs help.
Mhm.
And that was his whole take on it. Harvey Korman, of all people, wisdom of a comedian.
Hey, there you go. So tonight, my curling season could extend or could be completely over, because it seems that my doubles semifinals at 7:45, and because we won yesterday, my men's semifinals immediately after 9:20.
Wow.
So wish me luck, kids. Now, the second most important news of the day: the budget.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That
the budget also
chestnut.
happened yesterday. Narcissists are us. Sorry. I was just playing, kids. The budget came down yesterday, and we were having a little chat before the show, and you told me that you hadn't seen anything, but that people told you you would love it, and it would what?
Finish the Liberal Party. I'm like,
Yes.
what?
Yes.
How, if I'm going to love it, why would it finish them? I don't understand that.
Yes. And I think the best reason is to say is because a lot of people are saying, "Oh my God, they've gone so far to the left." That's right. And it's like, again,
Wouldn't
we
they be
have
locking up bankers if that was the case, though? I mean, really?
yeah, if they had gone extremely far to the left.
Yeah.
But how would I put it? We have to remember the overall global context, that the Overton window, at least on the political right, has been shifting so far right that the right has definitely abandoned the center or center right.
Oh, completely.
Yes, and everybody's saying, well, because liberals made a deal with the NDP, well, they've also abandoned the center and they've gone left. And it's like, not so much.
Remember, this is the party that gave us EI, that gave us 2 weeks vacation, that gave us, the 40-hour work week. They were thought of as extremely left-wing ideals back in 1968 when Pearson brought them in, right?
Yep. And now it's just work-life balance, right?
Yes.
So how would I put it? It's an interesting budget because, as we've been mentioning, it is very, very, very much clearly focused on younger Canadians. Basically, they say the focus is on for people born between 1981 and 2012. It's the 8th budget of this government. And the major focus of the government, of this budget, of course, is housing. On Power and Politics yesterday, when they were doing the analysis, well, not necessarily Power Politics, but on CBC News, when they were doing the budget special, they did a word count, those things that they do. How many times does this word appear in the budget text? And housing appeared over 600 times.
Oh, wow.
Which is in the text of the budget. And then the word Indigenous 400 times, and then, a couple of other words. But housing was by far the most mentioned. So the core of it is a housing strategy that they say involves about $23 billion, which is $8 billion in spending and $15 billion in loans. Remember, the loans part are the part that the government is going to get back, probably with a little bit of interest. So it'll be revenue generating and somewhat. Of course, there's going to have to be some provisions for bad loans in case. But when the Conservatives are going to be screaming up and down that, yeah, my God, this is killing, there's a big portion of this that are loans. I would like to, Mr. Grizzly, get you to play the first clip I have. This one's from David Cochran, basically giving from CBC News, giving a summary of what there is in the housing thing. I would present the one in the speech, but often in the budget speech, they just mention sort of like the overall thing and then give a little statistic or something. But he's actually talking a little bit more about some of the programs.
Okay, let's give it a go here. Let's change this up to this. That's what I wanted. There we go. Here we are. Let's have a listen.
And what the government has announced for the past number of years on childcare, for example, it's the aspiration is one thing, the execution is another, and so much of it depends on work done at the provincial level. And it's a similar thing with housing, right? So much of that depends on provincial governments and municipal governments approving things, and also the labor supply is going to be a considerable constraint on the construction. But we have some more details just on how the big housing strategy announced on Friday is going to roll out. And in particular, I just want to highlight what they've announced in terms of using government-owned lands. Their plan is to unlock up to 50% of government office buildings over 10 years to turn it into housing.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it would include offices, not just a piece of land. It's a building that could be there already.
Exactly. Yeah. So like some of the government buildings here in the downtown core. Doug Ford was here not that long ago with the mayor of Ottawa saying it's time for people to come back to work to help the downtown core. Remote work is more of a reality for office jobs. You have surplus capacity, convert those into apartments. But also, if you've ever dreamed of living above a Canada Post, well, this government has a plan for you. You have the post office, you have the Department of National Defence. They own property across Canada, a lot of which is underused. And they aren't just putting this out there as an idea. There are specific properties in this budget that they say could be turned into something. So in terms of national defense, the Amherst Armory in Amherst, Nova Scotia, the National Defense Medical Center here in Ottawa, these are being looked at as possible housing developments. If you live near the Hardin Street Canada Post in Fort McMurray, Alberta, that has been listed for sale. So there are properties here because the question has been, you have the ideas, you have the plan. How are you going to do it quickly enough that people can see progress? They've identified some inventory. They've mandated their departments to look at the land they own, the property they own, identify things that would be suitable for housing, and maybe be prepared to put it onto the market through some sort of arrangement, either through the lease that has been talked about or a flat-out sale, and have that converted into housing, some of which would have a component of affordability as a requirement of getting in there.
But that could be done a lot faster than having to build a bunch of new things as well.
Yeah. Conversions are tricky, and one of the big things too about this, Rosie, is I know we've talked a lot about the federal government and the pressure they have on housing. Rent control is provincial.
Yes.
So,
Yes,
there is
yes,
a
when we
role
hear
for
from
all
Ryan,
of the premiers to play on that particular issue, not just the federal government.
Okay, Dave.
I like him so much.
Yeah. I like David Cochran.
Yeah, he does good work. He does a little bit what we do sometimes.
Yeah.
Actually, throws that little extra bit of information there. So yes, when he's talking about that type of stuff, when he's talking about building on surplus government lands, because it's government lands, government can dictate a little bit the activity that's going on. So, like I say, you have to build some affordable. Now, the question is whether or not the government will sell those lands or lease them. It's probably a better idea to lease them so that you get revenue and that you keep them, so that you can do something else with them in the future should something happen. 60 years from now, and we need it for different purposes.
And he mentioned NDMC, which was National Defense Medical Center, and it's near CHEO in the General Hospital. It's basically the same campus, if you will.
Yeah,
for the most part. Giant piece of land, big parking space, 8 or 10-story building. I can't remember. I've done a ton of work there over the years, and the building is. There was a small clinic. I don't even think that's there anymore. I think it's mostly office space, and even that has been minimized with the move to the former
remote
Nortel
working.
site.
Yeah.
So if they can't utilize the building, they could utilize the building, but they could also, if they wanted to gut it, reno it, and turn it into apartments, they could certainly do that. Asbestos abatement would need to take place. I know there's a ton of asbestos in that building. It was built in the 40s. Post-war, but you have a ton of land around it where you could build 6, 8, 10-story buildings pretty quickly.
Yep, absolutely. So the plan is to build about 3.87 million new homes. You'll often hear about 4 million. It's just about 4 million by 2031, with loans to build 130,000 apartment units. They will be scaling up modular housing, so they'll be able to build housing year round and then put those units out. There will be credit for on-time rental payments for people who pay rent. So basically, you're paying your rent on time will go towards your actual credit rating, which will make it easier for you if you want to apply to get a mortgage later on, and you might even get one at a better rate with a better credit history. They will also be extending the first-time buyers, extending the amortization period for mortgage to 30 years, which in one way is not good because when you amortize longer, you end up paying more interest overall. But this could have the effect of reducing your monthly payments to something that's a little more manageable given how much they've gone up over the last little bit.
Right.
They will also create a tax-free first home savings account. For some reason, I thought that already existed, so I don't know if it's a revamp of a project, something that already had, and I'm not quite sure how it's different from the regular tax-free savings account.
Well, this would be a tax-free home savings account, so
yes, but they have to have, it has to have some type of provision, right? The tax-free savings account, you're allowed to put in a certain amount, and whatever you make on it, you're not taxed. So, I mean, I don't know what the additional provision is, or because there has to be something different about it, or else why wouldn't they just increase the amount you could put in your tax-free savings account and just do it through that? They'll also have something that's called an enhanced home buyers plan, which wasn't really explained and haven't been able to look that up yet. But the goal with regard to using government lands and buildings is to unlock up to 50% of government office buildings over 10 years in order to convert it to housing. So that's sort of like the big plans right there on there.
Well, and when you consider that a lot of those buildings, they have mandated federal government employees to go back to work, but you're only going 2 to 3 days a week. So you've got, augmenting shifts of people. So literally the building is never more than like 2/3. That. 2/3. If that. Right. So it's like, okay, well, let's just close this building, turn that into housing, move everybody over into this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Then they talked about childcare a little bit. There will be $1 billion for a childcare expansion loan program. Minister Freeland boasted that Canada has reached a record high for working age women's labor force participation due to that. So when people talk about that budgets will balance themselves type quotes like this, because they forget the rest of it. But when the Prime Minister says things like budgets will balance themselves, we're going to invest this money in childcare. It's going to allow more women to participate in the labor force. Right now, record high participation. All of them make money.
Guess what?
You're taxed on your income. That goes back in. That ends up covering the cost of the childcare, and sometimes even more. The budget balanced itself.
Yeah. They always leave out the rest of the quote, though, when they say that. The
Yeah.
budget will balance itself. How do budgets balance themselves? Well, actually, if you read what he actually wrote or spoke, if you read the words he spoke, if you wrote the whole content, anyway.
Yeah. The next clip I want to show is the one that you have. This one doesn't really, it ties into, because when they always talk about childcare, they'll always talk about women, even though childcare is for everyone. But they talk about women. And they segued into a little something about a woman's right to choose while talking about pharmacare, because as you remember, the pharmacare announcement came out and they're going to be covering diabetes, insulin, and devices for that are needed to treat and manage your diabetes, as well as
Long
contraception.
Long overdue
Yes.
for both, actually.
So, and on the issue of contraception, Minister Freeland took a moment to slide a little something in.
Okay, let's have a look at
Mr.
this.
Bisley.
Let me make sure I got full volume here.
As a woman, as a mother, and as Canada's Finance Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, let me say clearly here today, this is an essential right our government will always protect. Women in other countries are friends, are neighbors.
Wow.
Yeah, keep it going.
Keep it going? Okay.
Oh, was that the extent of the clip?
Yeah, you gave me one minute
Okay.
of clip.
Okay.
Keep it rolling?
No, that was it then. Sorry, I thought it
Okay.
was a little longer for some reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, just that little thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We will do that because we know very well that the conservative side has the Campaign for Life or something like that on its
Yes,
side.
Campaign
and,
Life Coalition.
Yes, Campaign Life Coalition, and they are really trying to take over party nominations. So, I mean, we already have, I think, is over 80 conservatives out of the bunch that already vote on any private member's bill to remove a woman's right to choose or restrict it or curtail it in some way. So that little mention there, very, very important. Continuing on, there's also going to be about $8 million put in to create various job opportunities. With regard to some other measures with regard to growth and productivity, they are going to create a new vehicle supply chain tax credit. So for all, not just batteries, but for all stages of anything that will go into the supply chain for creating
Right.
electric vehicles, that will be there. So they're building on what they've done so far. To attract investment, increase productivity, and boost innovation, Canada apparently is the first country in the world that has a national AI strategy. And
I think a few will follow suit quickly.
Oh, yes. And then, of course, they announced $2.4 billion for AI related things during the pre-budget announcements. And some of that will go to building data centers. And there will also be an accelerated capital cost allowance to make things eligible for immediate write-offs to get people to invest more. Let's see what else they said. She also mentioned that in the first 3 quarters of 2023, Canada attracted the very highest per capita foreign direct investment in the G7 and third most in the world. So when the Conservatives are saying that everything's broken and we're being split into oblivion, so much so that nobody will ever want to invest here, that's clearly not true. And it was true after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. I mean, come on, man. They're also, when they talk about growth and productivity, they got into education a little bit with saying that they will now have over $5 billion in funding for research and scholarships. I don't think it's $5 billion. That's new money, but topping it up to make it to $5 billion. They will renew the increase in upfront Canada student grants and interest-free loans. They will increase the amount of financial aid students get for housing. and they will make it easier for mature students to go back to school. And I didn't know this because somehow I missed this in last year's budget. But in last year's budget, the government of Canada eliminated all interest on Canada's student loans. Not
I do
sure
remember
whether or
that.
not the provinces followed suit.
Probably not, but I do
Yes.
remember that.
Yeah.
Last year, well, the budget they had last year was actually, even a lot of conservative political pundits were complimenting the budget last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they were coming out saying, this is actually good, and they're paying down debt. So, you know.
Yeah. And there's $1 billion in student aid as well with regard to all of that. So, good stuff here. There will also be a carbon rebate for small and medium businesses. At the moment, individuals get the Canada carbon rebate. Well, the government of Canada has been collecting carbon fees from small and medium businesses since 2009. And now it seems that there is a fund and that will return about $2.5 billion to 600,000 small and medium businesses starting later this year. So that's kind of a big deal. Let's see what else. And so I'm thinking that's most of the productivity and innovation stuff. Now, when they're talking about conservatives talking about the economy going to hell in a handbasket, the day yesterday did not start very well for Pierre Poilievre because the inflation numbers came out. And he kind of got handcuffed. The core inflation rate number, the overall headline number, went up by 0.1%. And, the last time it went up by 0.1%, well, Pierre was all out there with his meme saying, look at what the Liberals have done. Problem is that there's the headline number and then there's inflation when you take out gas. Gas went up 4.5% before the carbon fees because there's more strife in the world. There's war and stuff, and we're also doing the switch over from winter gas to summer gas. Right?
Yeah, that's it's the bean salad you eat at dinner on the patio in the summer. Oh no, you meant a different gas.
Yes, different kind of gas.
The 3-bean salad that you have on the patio, in the summertime because it's hot out. So 3-bean salad. So that gives you a different type. Oh, but you meant a fuel heating gas, a natural. Like, okay.
Once I ate beans and then I had gas.
Beans, the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot.
The more you toot. The Daily Beaver Morning Show where you go for all your fart jokes. Yay. Okay. So yeah, they are I forgot.
Did I knock you off?
You knocked me off.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
So I'm going to segue. Yes, sorry, inflation. Yes, the inflation number came out, and without gas, it went down to 2.8.
Mm-hmm.
So last month it was 2.9. It was 2.8. The core inflation one was 2.8. Went up to 2.9. But food inflation is now at 1.8%. It is below the Bank of Canada target of 2%.
It's good though.
Is very, very.
Let's see if we can keep it that way for a little while.
Oh yeah. No. This is very, very, very good stuff. So he was, definitely had the plan going, oh my God, look, they added to inflation already, inflation, blah, 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 blah. And turns out that the inflation numbers are really good. So good, in fact, that pretty much everyone is saying that, that coupled with a little bit of bump up in the unemployment rate a bit is pretty much going to seal the deal for a rate cut for the Bank of Canada, probably in June. Don't take that to the bank yet because it's just speculation, but it seems so that these are the signs that the bank was looking to see, and it will look very good. So this will also have implications for the budget when it comes to debt servicing, and we'll get to that. But PP did not get the gift he wanted, and everybody was quite happy with the fact that those inflation numbers came out the way that they did. So that was the overall context for the budget during the day.
Did you see Sean Fraser roast him?
Yes, I did. And hopefully we'll have time to show that one because, oh my God, that was so good. So we're going to play this next clip here, Mr. Grizzly. And this is, hold on, where am I looking at this? Oh, no, sorry.
Did
I
you give me the
actually,
wrong timestamp?
I think I gave you the right timestamp, but I think I may have given you the wrong video.
Oh, well, that's not good.
It's the first video that you used
Okay,
with David Cochran.
David Cochran?
I think,
That's what you
that's
want?
David Cochran.
Okay, just give me a sec here. I got it queued up. Ready to go.
Hold on, wait. I've got weird times here.
Well,
Sorry, you did have it right. You did it right. I'm so sorry.
okay. Well, the funny thing is, they both queue up to almost the same thing. So anyway, I'll air this one, and we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Okay.
Let's just sit back, relax, and watch. How much time have we got here? We've got about 2 minutes of Chrystia Freeland waxing poetically about the budget.
There are those who claim that the only good thing government can do when it comes to economic growth is to get out of the way.
That's why you sit there, guys. That's why you sit there.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce those people who just cheered to the talented tradespeople and the brilliant engineers who last Thursday made the final weld. It's known as the Golden Weld on a great national project, the Trans Mountain Pipeline.
Yep.
That's right. Mr. Speaker, it took an activist, determined Liberal government to get it built. And last week, the Bank of Canada estimated that this project alone will add 1/4 of a percentage point to Canada's GDP.
All right. Let's stop that there, I guess, and leave it there because we'll continue after that. So TMX is built, and when she says the golden weld, that's a reference back to the golden spike.
Right, yes.
When we did the National Railroad, the last spike that went in. So again, another little
A little
stick
dig.
the knife in and dig. All right. Now,
when we get out of the way and they all cheer, and then she says, "Here's what we did instead."
Yes, indeed. So, and that was the most animated that the Conservatives got during the whole budget in terms of heckling, because we can't certainly let a Liberal get out in one full sentence without being interrupted that they did what Harper couldn't.
Yeah. Just a thing.
Yeah, just the thing. Now, I just wanted to ask you: is the video that you have here the one with the from CBC, or just the full speech?
I've got both videos. I've got the one you.
No, but which one is up right now? Which one?
Oh, the CBC one. I was just going to continue from where we left off.
No, okay.
No, sorry, that's the full speech. No, that's the speech.
Okay. If it's the full speech, then just continue, because now we're talking about with regard to keeping the economic position safe. So this is very important information, because this counters all the BS you're going to be hearing until the election about the how Canada is being managed.
Mr. Speaker, as we invest with purpose for the benefit of our younger generations and those who love them, we continue to stick to a responsible fiscal plan. As part of that plan, in the fall, we set 3 very specific fiscal guideposts: maintaining the 2023-24 deficit at or below $40.1 billion, lowering the debt to GDP ratio in 2024-25 relative to the 2023 fall economic statement, and keeping it on a declining track thereafter, and maintaining a declining deficit to GDP ratio in 2024-25, and keeping deficits below 1% of GDP in 2026-27 and future years. Mr. Speaker, in this budget, every single one of these objectives is being met. As is our fiscal anchor, a declining federal debt to GDP ratio over the medium term. In fact, Canada has the lowest deficit and net debt to GDP ratios in the G7, as recognized in our AAA credit rating. Yeah.
And private sector forecasters are now predicting a soft landing for the Canadian economy, thus avoiding the recession and heartbreaking surge in unemployment that many had thought was inevitable. Canadians know how important it is to responsibly manage a budget in the face of rising costs. And they rightly expect their government to do the same.
That's why, going forward, federal public service organizations will be required to cover a portion of increased operating costs through their existing resources. Most of these savings will be achieved through natural attrition in the federal public service. As a result, over the next 4 years, we expect the ranks of the public service to decline by approximately 5,000 full-time equivalent positions.
All right, and leave that there because the next clip we'll take on, we'll continue from there, Mr. Grizzly. I know you have to go get a cup of coffee, so I can expand on that while you do
I'll
that.
be right back.
So when she's talking about the deficit guidepost to not have recorded a deficit more than $40.1 billion, that's something that she had stated in the fall economic update. A lot of people thought that the Liberals would not be able to live up to that. Oh, they have. They're presenting something that a budget that will announce a $40 billion deficit for this year. And essentially, for all intents and purposes, it's $40 billion deficits for the next 3 years, 39.8 the next year and 38.9 the following year, going down to 30.8 in 2026, 2027, 26.8 in 2027, 2028, and cutting it in half by 2028, 2029 to $20 billion. Now, as we mentioned yesterday on the show, however, there's a chance that some of this might go a little more quickly because of the good inflation data and the jobs data put together. If the Bank of Canada starts lowering interest rates, that is going to lower debt servicing charges, and that would be very important. It would allow, give the government more wiggle room in case an emergency happens, or it would allow them to meet their target of reducing, getting to cutting the deficit in half earlier or faster. With regards to the budget, one of the highlights is that the costs for servicing the debt have gone up, obviously, with all the interest rate increases, and they've even gone up a little bit since the fall economic statement, just a little bit. But we are spending pretty much now about 10 cents on every dollar on debt servicing charges at the moment.
So we're paying it down slowly but surely.
Yes, we're paying it down slowly. I don't see. This is the thing. I don't know if we are paying down or if we're just covering interest and leaving it at the moment. So that's I'm not sure if any debt is being paid down, but at least to service the debt. That's where we're going right now. About like I said, 10 cents of every dollar is going to service the debt. The government will be like. Pre-pandemic, we were spending about $30 billion a year to service the debt. Now it's about $64 billion. Now, one of the things that you will hear often, you will see this meme going around with a graph that says like all prime ministers combined, Trudeau, how much they've added to the debt, because Trudeau has had to add over $600 billion to the debt. Thing is that while every prime minister in Canada has had some type of challenge, right? It hasn't been since the days of Robert Borden that the
Yes.
prime minister had to deal with a global pandemic. And I'm pretty sure that, given that people travel more and we are more interconnected now, that it was, this one was probably tougher. So
During
no
Borden's
previous.
day, we didn't have jet aircraft that could take us anywhere on the planet within a few hours, right?
Yes. So every how would you put it?
Metric.
Every metric. By every metric, the current prime minister had a much tougher job with regard to this. And in regards, we'll talk about Stephen Harper, because when I mentioned that
The 2008.
that tweet I put out and said, the 2008 crash, but the fact that Harper, Mulroney, and Harris in my lifetime, as conservative leaders have left me with tons of debt, because that's the whole conservative thing. You're kneecapping our future generations with this debt.
And then selling off all of our Crown Corps for pennies on the dollar.
Exactly.
Selling off GM stock at a loss. Selling off Air Canada, which that's improved the...
Right. So, all this stuff is going on. So they took on debt, but none of these prime ministers had the world economy shut down for the better part of 3 years.
No.
None of these prime ministers had to completely switch the economic system in order to get money out as fast as possible to keep the citizens both alive and whole.
Yes.
Right?
This was unprecedented. This was new territory.
Exactly.
Nobody had ever dealt with this.
Exactly. And conservatives never argue the counterfactual. Had we done nothing and everybody had lost their homes or their apartments and people were playing musical chairs in apartments, and what impact would have that had on the economy? So,
would have crashed the global economy completely.
The other thing that Canadians need to consider, and David Cochrane did mention this, is that during that time, the federal government took on debt that rightfully would have gone to the provinces.
Mm-hmm.
Because the federal government has a better interest rate, because it has a better credit rating. So the federal government, like they took on debt for us so that we wouldn't lose our homes and whatnot,
Right.
Serbs and all that kind of stuff, they took on that debt because, again, a federal government is intended to last until eternity. So they've got forever to pay it off, whereas we don't. So
Well, it's not the federal government, it's the country's lasting forever.
Yes, the government of Canada's
Right.
debt. So rather than having us take out a whole bunch of loans so that we could pay our mortgages and whatnot while we're gone, saying, you know what, banks allow people to borrow more and we'll fix it out later. And then you had all that debt with interest. The government took on that debt. Well, federal government took on debt for us, but the federal government also took on debt for the provinces.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are pointing us at Trudeau like this, that's because there's a huge chunk of that $600 billion that would have been spread out over 10 provinces and 3 territories. But since Ontario, for example, is already the most indebted subnational government on the planet, probably wouldn't have been that great for 16 million Ontarians had they had to take on all that debt on the provincial books.
Well, and yeah.
And for the provincial credit rating. So a lot of these things are a little disingenuous. And finally, when you're looking at the graph of all the other prime ministers combined, none of their individual data has been adjusted for inflation. They're just looking at the raw number.
Yeah, so let's compare an apple to an apple and not an apple to an orange.
Exactly.
And then it's different. It's very different.
So
and people, it's, even like I do have, as you know, in my Scotch and Cigar Club, progressive conservative friends who completely agreed with what the Prime Minister did at the start of the pandemic. They completely agreed with it. They're like, we have to save people's lives. Move fast and break things. You have to in a situation like this. That's what was done. They said, look, we know people are going to scam. We know it. But you got to save people's lives. That's first and foremost your most important job. We know we're going to have issues later. We're going to find out about fraud. But look, we can save everybody or save nobody. And if you save nobody, nobody cheats. But guess what? People die.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And that's great for the economy.
Yeah.
And productivity.
Oh, we don't have enough human capital anymore because that's what they like to say, right?
Well, also, right, it's not a great, you let people die. Okay.
Yeah.
Say you're average 27-year-old.
Yeah.
How much money did you put in healthcare all their life while they were a child? How much did you put into childcare? How much did you put into public education? Primary, secondary, post-secondary. Yes, they're 27. They graduated from their bachelor's degree. They are like this for college or trade school, and they're like in the first 2 or 3 years of their, working life, and then boom, out. That's all the investment we put in that person.
Yeah.
Gone.
Gone.
Or you can choose to keep that person alive.
Not a difficult
Give them
decision.
$2,000 a month for 2 years to keep them alive, to keep all that investment we put in them. And this is like, see, this is me speaking like a conservative now. Human capital. We invested in that human capital. This is our investment. Let's protect our investment. And this is why I don't understand why conservatives don't seem to get this. Well, let people starve. Let them lose their homes. Like this. You just blew all the money you put into them all your life.
Yeah.
If you're talking about fiscal responsibility, it costs way more way less to keep someone whole.
Yes, because
for a year or two, so that they can live then from 27 to normal life expectancy, contributing to taxes throughout their entire life, contributing to the economy in their entire life, getting promotions, bigger earning potential, contributing more to the really, So you don't, if you want to be strictly capitalist and look at people strictly as human capital, it's a really dumb move to let people flounder after you've put all that money into them to build them up to where they are. Real dumb.
Comment from Kyle, our friend, Super Kyle. 2,000? Yes. Yeah, Ford gives me 1,300. Yeah, I know. It's pathetic, brother. It's pathetic, and it needs. And I thought this budget was going to deal with. It didn't.
Yep.
It didn't.
Yep. There was we talked about the disability tax credit. That was part of it as well. That is extremely disappointing. There's it's $6 billion over 6 years, so it's basically $1 billion a year. The ask was about $10 billion a year.
So they're a little
at
shy.
that time. The money, they're going to be funding it starting this year, putting money in the fund so that, it starts to build up and, gain some interest. But payments won't start until July 2025.
That's
to people, and the payments will be $200 a month.
It's over a year away.
Yeah, it's over a year away. And now it's like $200 a month. So it's $2,400 a year. Now, people are not expecting the disabled community to live on $2,400 a year. This is a top up to programs that already exist and whatnot. But the federal government, it's not enough. But the federal government, it seems that with their negotiations with the provinces up until now, it seems it was made very clear to them that if they made the amount minimally attractive in any type of way, that the premiers would swoop in, or we're not going to guarantee to leave it to people. So they tried to pick an amount that hopefully would be helpful, but would it entice premiers to try and take it away from people? That's their story. Anyway, and they're sticking to it. To get people to a living standard, the funding needed to be $10 to $12 billion every year. We've got $1 billion a year, rising to $1.4 billion at the end of this 5-year cycle. So, I don't know, man. After talking this up and all the time that it took to get there and all the time, and I understand it's a fund and you got to put money in it and fund it and all that kind of stuff. But this amount, $200, is such a pittance that if a premier anywhere touches it, that would probably be the end of their career, hopefully. But it is not enough. It's not enough. I mean, I just look at my own mortgage fees. It's like that wouldn't even cover the increase of my mortgage fee. Like it's not enough. It's not enough. It needed to be about $1,000 per month, not $200. So I'm not, Kit Vim, disabled, right to meet with your MP, because this is not, now at least there's a structure there, and maybe, hopefully, let's say, if debt servicing charges are down a little bit, the federal government would be able to take a little bit of that money and say, we're going to top up the disability fund, because now there is at least something that exists to top up, but this is not. Yeah, as Kit Carroll says, it's a start. At least it's implemented. Yes, hopefully. So, yeah, and Kit Super Kyle calls $7.50 an hour if calculated in a full works week pay for the month, which again, there is no excuse for any person to not be making at least minimum wage if you are receiving supports or if you're working. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because I saw an article the other day about people with developmental disabilities were getting like paid $2.50 an hour for doing work. It's like, pay them a goddamn minimum wage. It's work. Work is work is work.
Well, and disability works at the $7.50 an hour, which I think is what the minimum wage is in most states. The minimum wage in Ontario is $16.50 now, isn't it? And that's not even a livable wage, by the way.
Yeah, it's not even close to livable wage. The big measure was, of course, a boost in the capital, having to do with capital gains. The federal government had to raise a little bit more money to be able to cover that, to meet the goal of not putting the deficit over $40 billion. Now, the federal government's economic performance has been better over the last year. So the federal government did bring in $7.7 billion in income tax and various taxes from economic growth that they weren't expecting when they made the statement. They have taken that money and they have reinvested that already. And then they've raised about $19 billion through doing this change through capital gains, which they've also already they've included in this, the spending for this time around. So the capital gains, a lot of people are confused about this. It's not an increase in the amount of the capital gains. It's an increase in the inclusion. So right now, if you sell something, you get a capital gains. 50% of it is yours, and 50% of the amount you have to declare on your taxes, and there's a capital gains charge on that. That is going to increase from 50% to 66%. So from 1/2 to 2/3. All right. Now, this, as we mentioned on the show, we thought it probably wouldn't affect people that were not making a lot of money, and it's true. It only applies after the first $250,000 in capital gains that you make annually. So this is something that will affect 0.13% of Canadians. 40,000 of the richest Canadians with an average income of $1.4 million, as well as the 300,000 largest corporations, companies, and trusts. It's expected to generate $19.3 billion. And Minister Freeland had said when she was delivering the speech, today it is possible for a nurse or a carpenter to pay tax at a higher marginal rate than a multimillionaire. That's not fair. That must change, and it will.
Good. Look, we've been calling for that, I think, collectively as a nation for, the last 20 years? I mean, come on. It's wrong that at a marginal rate, I'll pay higher than somebody who's worth 10, 100 times what I'm worth, It's just wrong.
Yeah,
it's wrong.
It absolutely is. And I wish I could find the tweet from Kit Hugh, who actually put something. Oh, there we go. In Canada, the top income tax rate in 1955, a time of unprecedented popular wealth generation prosperity for all, was 91%. So,
wow.
I think they will be able to take an inclusion rate that's a little bit higher. That will be able to, to stand. Now, of course, a lot of people are wondering specifically with regard to your house. Your principal residence is exempt. Right. And people say, well, what about if someone dies? It's on disposition. So when someone dies, it goes to the estate. There's no capital gains on the estate. Once you inherit it, it's yours. If once you inherit it, you sell it, then you'll get the capital gains. But there will be no capital gains on transfers from inheritance as well. Inheritance and estate law is different. So just for people to know. And then there's a couple of other things that are also excluded from that rate as well, that unfortunately I did not note specifically up to the top of my head, but we'll be talking more about the budget in a couple of days, and I'll be able to mention what the other exclusions are. But there are certain things that are indeed excluded from that. But more people, more organizations, businesses will be taken in there on that one, and that's going to raise some money and will cover for things, help pay for certain things. Now, the best part of the budget clip of the budget is how Minister Freeland ended it. So, Mr. Grizzly, if you have the full speech up, if you go to 3138. And this will probably be the last little bit that we're able to do on the show before we have to close. This is every now and then some people, you hear a bit of a speech and you think, okay, that was pretty good. This one, if this is going to be the election platform or the election pitch, the stump speech for the next year and a half, this is pretty good. Game on.
Yet, I know, there will be many voices raised in protest. No one likes paying more tax, even, or perhaps particularly, those who can afford it the most. But before they complain too bitterly, I'd like to ask Canada's 1%, Canada's 0.1%, to consider this. What kind of country do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a country where you can tell the size of someone's paycheck by their smile? Do you want to live in a country where kids go to school hungry? Do you want to live in a country where a teenage girl gets pregnant because she doesn't have the money to buy birth control? Do you want to live in a country where the only young Canadians who can buy their own homes are those with parents who can help with the down payment? Do you want to live in a country where we make the investments we need in healthcare, in housing, in old age pensions, but we lack the political will to pay for them and choose instead to pass a ballooning debt on to our children? Do you want to live in a country where those at the very top live lives of luxury, but must do so in gated communities behind ever higher fences, using private health care and private planes, because the public sphere is so degraded and the wrath of the vast majority of their less privileged compatriots burns so hot? Every one of us here in this chamber today, and every Canadian across our truly great country, needs to ask themselves these same questions, because the stakes could not be higher. Democracy is not inevitable. It has succeeded and succeeds because it has delivered a good life for the middle class. When liberal democracy fails to deliver on that most fundamental social contract, we should not be surprised if the middle class loses faith in democracy itself. Tax policy is not only, or chiefly, the province of accountants or economists. It belongs to all of us, because it is how we decide what kind of a country we want to live in and what kind of a country we want to build. Today, our government is making our choice. C'est le chemin que nous...
This is the path we must follow, Mr. Speaker. This is our plan to renew the promise of Canada. There are some in this chamber, particularly across the aisle, who do not share our vision. They would cut programs that we have put in place to improve the lives of all Canadians. Nevertheless, our government, in their opinion, should just do a little and then less, and ultimately, in their view, do as little as possible or even nothing at all.
They ripped up early learning and childcare. And as housing minister, the current leader of the opposition only got a handful of homes constructed. It was our prime minister, not a conservative, who actually got a pipeline built. And you know why that is, Mr. Speaker? That is because our government understands that to do big things in Canada, sometimes the government needs to lead the charge, whether it is getting more homes built faster or finally creating a national system of early learning and childcare, or bending the curve on emissions. Let's be honest about what austerity and shrinking the state would mean for Canadians. It means you're on your own. It means no one will give you a hand when you falter, and that you are choosing to turn your back on the friend or neighbor who has not been as lucky as you. That is not the Canadian way. In this country, we take care of each other. Mr. Speaker, to make a positive difference in people's lives, to get big things built, to get big things done, you need more than a slogan, more than a rhyme or two. You can't hop on pop your way to a better country. To make a difference in people's lives, you need a plan. Canada needs action, not indifference. We are acting. The times call for building up our country, not sitting on the sidelines. We are building. Today, we say to our younger generation and to those who care about them, we are putting all the power of government to work for you. We will build more homes. We will make life cost less. We will grow our economy in a way that works for everyone. Together, we will unlock the door to the middle class for more Canadians and renew the promise of our great country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
How do you like them apples?
Pretty good apples, if you ask me.
That's how you end a speech.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way she went on, what kind of country do you want? Do you want one where we don't give a shit about anybody but ourselves? Was effectively what she said. I just summed it up really quickly there. No, I don't want that kind of country. I think most Canadians don't want that kind of country.
We're a fair play country. No, we don't want that. So, and you will notice, even though the camera didn't pan, when she said, in this country, we take care of each other, you could tell by the applause that there wasn't 338 people who applauded that line.
Of course not.
Yeah. I wonder who didn't. It's a mystery. Will we ever find out?
Bootstrap yourself. Bootstrap.
All right. Cats and Cubs, we have a show. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring. Word of mouth is priceless, so please tell your peeps and poops all about us. If you do not want to miss an episode, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl, because if you scan that QR code right under my chin, that will bring you to our pod page. If you're listening, podpage.com/the-true-north-eager-beaver, lowercase letters, with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you click subscribe there, when we have something for you, fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to your inbox.
And by the way, all of our videos are there as well.
Yes.
All of our YouTube shows are also on the pod page for those who are not aware.
Yes. And you usually will, most of the things are on the live page. Sometimes there's one or two other things on the video page, but mostly it's all on the live page.
Yeah.
The things that we do, like the podcast and stuff that are not available via podcasts, are also on that live page. Make like Kit Elaine if you go there and smash our buttons. Like, share, subscribe. hey, we're getting closer to the 750, so please help us, and then to the 1,000. And if you'd like to help us in other ways because you like the shows that we do, you like the content, you like how we boil things down for you, or we summarize things or do synthesis and analysis, then please scan that QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head, and that will bring you to our coffee page. That's ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And that's where you can find our tip jar, or like we like to call it, the emergency hydration fund, where you can offer us a cup of coffee or a Guinness or hot chocolate if you'd like to encourage us to do more. Thank you so very much. Because democracy is something that you do, please do write those letters. And remember, if you live in Alberta, you have until the 22nd to register to be able to vote in the provincial leadership race for the NDP. So please do that. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Eager Beaver saying, it's been a tough world out there. It is. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Tomorrow we'll have more on the budget with some response from the opposition MPs and all that kind of stuff, and talking polishing off a couple of other details that I didn't have the full information for you today. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom for us?
I do.
Okay.
For those of you who think this budget will be harmful to you, well then obviously you're filthy fucking rich. So settle the fuck down. You know who you are. It's going to hurt you? No. You're going to be fine. It's going to improve my life. I won't have to skip meals anymore, or ever again. That's what it boils down to. My life will improve. I might actually be able to join the middle class someday, instead of being an impoverished working class stiff who is basically facing working till I die. My last job will be to dig my own grave, except I'm going for cremation. So my last job will be to build the cardboard box that I climb into before you incinerate me. That's the future I'm facing. So this budget is going to help make sure that I don't have to face that future. So shut your fucking pie hole if you don't like the fact that you're going to pay a little bit more. It's time for you to pay your goddamn fair share. Sorry, fired up.
Boom.
Fired up.
Damn. Woo. Some heat. Mr. Grizzly, please. Cue that cock. Woo. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community. And the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, Mr. Grizzly, I don't know Easter egg.
Just this one. Lola hunting
Oh
squirrel.
my God. Oh my.
Squirrel hunting
Oh,
Lola.
I wish I could find it. Somebody, when you showed that one of Lola in the park with the dogs, there was one of our listeners that had a dog that was jumping up at the screen to try and play with Lola.
Oh, really?
Yes. I wish
find it great.
Yes, hopefully I can find it. If you're watching, please send it to us again. All right. Have a beaverific day,
Gotta
everyone.
go. See you later.
Bye.